Thanks, Aki. That was quite an introduction. I've even begun to wonder what I'm going to be talking about myself, and perhaps some of you have also been, this clicker thing, there we go. Perhaps some of you also have a few questions. Now, we don't have time to do the usual, what would you like to hear, adult, educational type of thing. So I've come up with a few questions, and I'm going to try and answer these, and hopefully these are good questions for you too. If they're not, think them up, and when I get the 5-minute thing from Candace down in the front, I'll stop and you can ask those questions. So to talk about lean, to begin our journey started early in 2014. At least the groundwork was laid. We had one of those leadership events, the ones where 200 people go off-site and they listen to the CIO, and we recognized that we were at a dinosaur point in time. You know what a dinosaur point in time is, right? Evolution or extinction. And we confronted that and accepted it. And that, of course, like being an alcoholic, accepting it is the first step towards change. And then we came up and made a strong strategic declaration. I'm going to share our goals because they're the same as your goals. Okay, right. There we go. Whoops. This clicker thing is really a little erratic. So our goals are kind of the same as your goals. You might have different words for them. It even turns out that Dean Leffingwell, the guy who's driving the scaled Agile framework, his goals are the same as well. And he says if you do SAFe, you can improve towards these goals, which is really exciting. So these were our goals, and what it did was it created an opportunity for our management consultants to approach the CIO. So I wasn't obviously not privy to that conversation, but they arrived and they said, hey, Madam CIO, I think this lean thing can really help you guys out. We think it can make a big difference to all your goals, but especially the affordability one. That affordability one, we can help you out there. We can eliminate waste. We can make processes more efficient. It'll be fabulous. And the CIO said, okay, cool, that sounds good. Let's go for it. Let's do it. And got the process team in to start adopting lean. And this is how we went about adopting lean. It began with a preparation stage where you have a few conversations with a couple of people in the leadership of a particular area and you gather some data. Lots of data, actually, now that I mention it. And then the team gets together, the lean, we called them navigators, we might call them lean coaches today. They get together with a few key people from the area, and you do a bunch of diagnosis. You scratch around in it, you look at the data, you figure out where there's efficiencies and all the problems. Then you move to the next stage, starting to sound a little waterfall, this, but never mind. So we move to the next stage and we design some interventions, some improvement initiatives that should help you to address some of those issues. Now for the interesting part. The commitment meeting. At the end of design, the ManCo, the management team of the area where you're working, get together and they say, we're going to do all these initiatives and we're going to get benefits, and this is what we sign up to deliver through these things. And how were the benefits measured? You guessed it, RAND savings, and what we in Standard Bank, what we call FTEs. FTEs, it's a good acronym, it stands for full-time equivalent. So it's people, we can save people effort. And once you've committed, dropped your blood on the piece of paper there, then you move on and you implement, and there we go. Then you implement the initiatives, and all this happens in a kind of crash ball way over a 16 to 20 week period. Really, really intense. And when you're finished, you slip into continuous improvement. So how do you think that worked? Okay, not a very talkative crowd. Aki, you were supposed to warm them up, to make them talkative. So, we'll fix that later. So how did it work? Well, it didn't really work so well, because here, metaphorically speaking, is the crux of this. If you invite a bunch of turkeys to a focus group session, and the topic of the focus group is Christmas dinner lunch, who knows that what you get is a vegan menu. And the people that were involved looked at what we were trying to do, and they looked at it with a degree of skepticism and said, you know what? when we say this is how much we can do more with the same people or less people, we know where it's going. It's going to be the big R word. The big R word. And nobody likes the big R word in IT, right? What I must say, though, is that those savings are actually quite important for a slightly different reason. I don't know how many of you have ever played with one of these, but you'll know that it requires some fairly deft work if there was a tile 16. It would be a real problem. So creating those savings was quite important, but for the reason being it would give you the capacity to embark on the ongoing continuous improvement journey. But that's obviously not what we saw. So this was a bit of a problem for us. You might even say that we'd lost sight of the basics of Lean, the essence, the philosophy of Lean. I say lost sight, maybe we never had sight of it in the first place. So what do you do when you don't know what you're doing? Well, what I do is I go to the books. So I went to the books, and these are all the kind of vanilla, generic, Lean books that you should all start off reading. No, don't take a picture of this one to create your reading list, because we later discovered that there's a better book. There's this one. Quite a bold claim. Lean is a complex thing. It's been around a long time, and these guys wrote a book and said, this is Lean. So I picked up the book and I read it, and I'd have to say they did an awesome job. So the first book you really need to read is this one called This is Lean. You can get it, one-click purchase, Amazon. It's fully available. It's an awesome book. It'll discuss the principles. It'll discuss the essence of what Lean really is. And it gives me my working definition of what Lean is. An operation strategy, and that's not ops strategy, it's an operations as in execution type strategy, which prioritizes the flow of value, the delivery of value over resource efficiency. How many of you work in organizations where resource efficiency is the king? You're all lying. You're all lying. How many of you fill in timesheets? Most of you are still lying. We fill in a lot of timesheets because knowing what people are working on is very important, right? It's horrible, and maybe I was going to say if I'd tweeted, it would have been the thing about DevOps that is most annoying is timesheets followed by the cab. But that's another story for someone else, I guess. So we began to understand what this Lean thing really was. And I don't have enough time today, because I don't want to see the rude message from Candace down in the front, to go into what Lean is all about in real depth. But let me just say this to give you a framing of it. It begins with principles. And principles are key and crucial. People have mocked me at work for many years about my sort of pedantic obsession with principles. But the way I view principles is it's the guiding rails along the highway. The principles can curve. You can drive how you like on the highway as long as you stay within those guiding barriers. Those are the principles. They're really important. So Lean has some principles. You can read about them in This is Lean. Then we have a bunch of concepts that are really key. I can't, again, go into all of them. Most of you would probably know Lean as continuous improvement. And if you're well versed in a little bit of Japanese, you might even know that the word Kaizen means continuous improvement. Yeah? You know that? It doesn't mean that. That's the MBA English translation. What Kaizen actually means, I find this fascinating. If you look at kanji script, you know those like little pictures that the Japanese draw, you'll see that Kaizen is 3 symbols. And those symbols mean driving or whipping yourself better. Whipping yourself to be better. Isn't that awesome? No, not that way, Jason, not that way. To me, it's an evocative expression. It's that relentless, self-driven drive to be better as a team every day, which is kind of different to continuous improvement, as spoken by the MBA types from America. So you've got concepts like Kaizen, you've got concepts like visualization. Visualization is perhaps one of the most important ones. Neuroscientists today tell us about the power of visualization, about the power of doing things. I know Atlassian are in the room, I'm not being rude here, but there's something really, really powerful about moving a sticky to done that is not the same even as touching it on your touch screen, big screen monitor and sliding it to done. That's what the neuroscientists tell me. Don't blame me. So this whole thing of making things visual, I mean, think about it. How would you like to drive your car without a dashboard? Some of you reckless types might like it, but you're probably going to pick up speeding fines and run out of petrol and all kinds of things. So it's really powerful to have visual displays of where you are in your working space. So people at Standard Bank would say to me, Lean's about a whiteboard. No, it's not about the whiteboard. It's about visualizing your work in every aspect so it can help shape and drive what you're doing as a team. So those are concepts, and finally, you get various tools and techniques, things like A3 thinking, a structured way to solve problems. You get methods like Kanban or Kanban, depending on how you like to pronounce it, to manage work, which is really becoming quite a big thing. All these different tools and techniques that you can use. And all this helps you to transform your performance. Except that when you focus on trying to transform your performance, you miss the point and it's not that effective. So we've learned, this is Peter Sengi's work, adopted by consultants like Vanguard, for instance, in the Vanguard method, that performance is shaped and influenced by the systems within your organization. So if you want a better performance, you've got to change the systems that underpin it. If you don't change the systems, you won't get that sustainable, better performance. And the systems themselves are built on your various mental models, the things that you believe, the things that you think about, that you understand. And if you don't address those and create that different understanding, different systems, you're pretty much done for. So what has this got to do with DevOps? I can hear you asking yourselves. So there's a typical DevOps type of cycle, the way we do things, and then to make them better, we fill it in with a lot of automation kind of stuff, the chef stuff, etc. And how does Lean fit in? Well, I say Lean fits in like this. And I have the power of the clicker and the slide, so finally I get to draw my version of this picture. And the way it is, the way I see it, is that Agile, DevOps, and these things are specific instantiations of general, generic Lean thinking. They work within that concept. But if you look at the principles and the concepts of Lean, you see them all manifested wonderfully in Agile and DevOps. DevOps, who came up with that name? They really weren't that imaginative on the day where they came up with that. Dev and Ops, and we'll put them together. Wouldn't it have been better if we'd called it Agile 2.0? Because that would have had a cool, funky HTML feel to it as well. So here we have our strategy and how Lean fits in. And then, of course, we all know this picture. It's Drucker who said that culture will eat your strategy for breakfast, lunch, supper, and snacks in between. So if Agile DevOps is a strategy, if we don't take care of culture, your strategy's done for. Now, some people, and particularly change people, and when I want to annoy them a lot, which is often, they say changing the culture is really, really difficult. And I say, well, it might be hard work, but actually I think it could be quite easy. Because if you've got your leadership in the organization, all you need to do to change the culture is get your leaders to reward different behaviors, punish a different set of behaviors, and model a new set of behaviors. How hard is it? And then just by magic, the culture will change. Now, I know that's easier said than done, because a lot of those leaders are struggling to change their culture. And this is where the Lean thing comes in. Because we've now spoken about how Lean and Agile and DevOps are all together, and generically so, it means the body of knowledge that is generally Lean is okay for you to dip into. There might be some useful stuff for you to learn in that. And one in particular, because I don't have a lot of time, and to honor the theme of the meeting around new skills for the future generation, I want to leave you with something that this guy said. He worked for Toyota, and he was trying to make sustainable change to the way his management and leadership worked, because he recognized the people on the shop floor know best. And if we work with them, they will do great stuff for us. And he changed his leadership culture with these simple 6 words. You can all remember it, eh? Go see, ask why, show respect. That's what you need to do, Peter. Go see, ask why, show respect. Let's unpack that. So what it means is when something isn't quite what you want to know, when you want to understand a thing a little bit better that's going on in your organization, what you don't do is reach for your PowerPoint report. You know those 70-page things that you make people produce on a regular basis that are mostly works of fiction? You don't want to do that. You want to get up and go to the place where the work is happening to see, to get real facts. And when you get there, you need to ask why. Now, I must warn you, asking why isn't the way you think it is. It's not, why are you late? Why is your system down? Why haven't you completed that change? How does that make you feel? Defensive. Attacked. Some might even cynically think that the boss has rolled in and is hunting for the goat to execute the traditional scapegoat meal. And that just shuts everything down. So what I want to encourage you to do with this is to understand that it's ask why to understand. To understand. And as a tip, try asking why without ever using the word why. Yeah? Ask why to understand without ever using the questioning word why. It'll change everything for you. What's slowing you down? What is the obstacle preventing progress? Completely different question, right? Nod, Peter. Oh, thank you. We like feedback, So to help you now to learn this, because I'm coming to the end, I promise, coming to the end. To help you learn this, I can't teach you the skills now, so I'm going to direct you to 2 more books. So you get 3 books to read from this session. And the first of these books is written by Edgar Sheen. It's called Humble Inquiry. He's one of these big gurus from the States, organizational design, organizational culture. And if you read this book, Humble Inquiry, it will help you to change your mental models around how you need to be as a leader. It'll give you a sense of the what. It might, however, though, leave you asking some tough questions like, how am I going to even do that? Because I'm not used to asking questions. I'm used to telling people what to do, and then they do it. So here's the next book that I want you to, or recommend that you read, and it's, the clicker almost got there, and it's called The Coaching Habit by Michael Stanier. Now, most coaching books are pretty dour reading. I'll be honest. Even the people who love coaching really struggle to read these books. This, like the other 2 that I've mentioned, is an easy read. Words of 1 syllable, 2 syllables at the most. Quite a lot of humor in it. We like humor. And he gives you these 7 questions. Just these 7 questions. And as leaders and managers, people who are working with teams, you can try out these 7 questions. You can try them in sequence. As you get more proficient, you might just jump in and pick one in the middle. And these questions will help to shape a different conversation with your people. It will help to shape a different culture, because it's when you have that different culture that all the other gee whiz bang stuff that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the day when we go into the tech mode can actually work. Without it, I believe you're doomed to fail. And to just repeat the mistakes of the past, because let's be honest, for those of you that are old enough to remember object orientation, it was a cool technology, right? It was a cool approach. It really worked well, except that it didn't make a sustained impact on the industry. Even further back, structured programming, really good stuff. But most people don't do these things because these great ideas land up in toxic cultures. They get poisoned and they become stillborn. So, to recap then, the lessons of this that I've learned, and I really wanted to share some real lessons to follow on from Jason's example of that embarrassing story you told us last time, is that beware of using your management consultants excessively. Use what they say carefully. Much better, in my opinion, is to take responsibility to study, to try and understand the space better yourself, do it for yourself, and then do things. And when you've done things, observe what happened and learn from them. The infamous or famous, fail fast, fail cheap, fail forward, all that good stuff. And even better, do it with a sensei, if you can. Somebody who knows, whose heart and his soul is in this and is not a management consultant whose heart and soul is somewhere else. The second thing to remember, and we've started to learn this, is that if you don't change your culture, you will fail. And Daniel here, we're driving a lot now within Standard Bank to change the culture, because we recognize that without that change in leadership behavior, you will fail. So some of you might be feeling a bit nervous now. I hope so, because it asks a lot of us as the leaders, as the influencers in our space. And then finally, read the 3 books. This is Lean, Humble Inquiry, The Coaching Habit. Won't break the bank. None of them are those big, expensive $60 chaps. Read them and then adopt this go see, ask why, show respect philosophy within your management. Whether you're an executive, a senior manager, or some team supervisor, if you do this, and you practice that and use those questions, you will create a culture, you will unlock the potential for all the other good stuff to really happen.